CNBC TV 18, embarking on a quarter century of excellence.
Hello and welcome. I'm Manisha Gupta, and this week on Commodity Champions, we steer the conversation towards the healthy snack, which is dry fruits. This consumer segment is valued at over 9,000 crore rupees in India, and it is the second biggest consumer for cashews, peanuts and almonds. It's also the third largest consumer for raisins and fourth largest for dried figs. Now, the onset of winters and the wedding season is also set to add to the growing demand for dry fruits. To discuss the industry's outlook, concerns and demand trajectory, I am now joined by Ravindra Mehta. He's director of the International Fruits and Nuts Organization. Rajat Kamal Bola is founder of director of Bola's Agro. We're also joined by Gunjan Jain, who's managing director and chief executive officer at VKC Nuts. Gentlemen, hi, thank you so much for joining us. And Gunjan, let's start with you because it's your birthday to begin with. And we would also want to understand on what is the dry fruit market that does seem like in India, and why did you think, or why did you guys think that there was a scope and need for a national council of dry fruits in the country?
Okay, so Indian nuts and dried fruit industry is among the fastest growing industries today. We are almost at, as you rightly said, about 9,000 crores on a retail level. And this industry, after the advent of COVID, I think everybody got very conscious on health. And because of that, I think the consumption increased because of the immunity. I mean, these are nature's health pills, all nuts and dried fruits. So all that led to a much higher consumption. And India is among the fastest growing markets and also among the largest markets, as you've seen. So while we thought of this council was, the reason was to just get a pan-India level representation of every commodity and every center, every geography of India to get an association of people. So this is one of the most underrepresented industries in the segment today because earlier it was highly unorganized. It still is a mix between organized and unorganized. It's moving towards an organized segment, but it's just about 25% of this industry is organized and 75% still remains in the unorganized sector. Having said that, the potential and growth is enormous. The whole world has eyes on India now. For this, we are seeing excellent traction on the whole industry as such. So that was the reason we thought we'll get together and form this council and get everybody together. Yeah.
Oh, well, absolutely. You know, that is where my next question comes in from. A 25% organized and a 75% unorganized market as we see it. Mr. Mehta, how would you look at these, brackets that we have within the industry here? I mean, this is one area or one segment which clearly is looking at a huge jump up. As Gunjan also mentioned, since COVID, the demand has been quite on the stronger side. I mean, you talk to everybody around and you have dry fruits now in sweets, you have them in ice creams, cereals, even farsan for that matter, and even a biryani for that matter. I mean, you have dry fruits making inroads into various foods right now. How would you look at this, and what's your sense? Are we moving towards organized market anytime soon?
Thanks, Manisha, for having me on your show. First of all, a very happy birthday to my colleague Gunjan. And it's a great day for us that we are on this show representing a commodity, which is actually the champion of commodities. When I say champion, because it is widely accepted for your health reasons, it is becoming an immunity booster. And post-COVID, I think the demand has been so phenomenal that India today consumes about 1.3 million tons of various nuts and dry fruits. And being a commodity nut, commodity champion commodity, we are actually striving for making it a commodity for masses. Now, all segments of our supply chain, starting from confectionery to sweet makers to table snack, is filled with this healthy choice of nuts and dry fruits. Now, when you ask a question about it being into an organized trade and unorganized trade, so what we consider organized trade is the e-commerce, the brick and mortar stores, the organized stores like which we have seen since 2003-4, have come up in such a way that the visibility of dry fruits as a commodity is creating more buzz with the consumer when they get a choice to go and buy a nut of their choice, a brand of their choice. Earlier, this choice was not available to the consumer. They couldn't understand, they couldn't see the product availability, the quality of product. But looking at the geographical and the demographics of India, I personally feel that there is a limitation to an organized trade in India, and this trade will always remain in the hands of unorganized sector or probably the mom and pop stores. And that is where our strength comes of penetrating into the smaller towns, smaller villages, whereas the challenges of the organized trades are much stronger than creating more buzz into the smaller sectors, smaller states, smaller cities, where the demand and the growth we see in the coming days. So I think it's a champion commodity in terms of the benefits it gives you. It's a champion commodity in terms of the value proposition, and it gives you the best benefits of health, Manisha.
It clearly does that. So, as you mentioned, there are so many options to choose from now. Well, I remember growing up, you would buy dry fruits and you wouldn't even know what brand you were buying. So, yes, as you rightly said, it largely has been an unorganized market. Rajat, this one is to you. So, the other thing really is about value addition, various options available. People wanted it in a certain way. Presentation, packaging seems to be becoming more important as well.
Absolutely. So good evening to everyone and happy birthday to Gunjan, first of all. Getting back to the industry, I think the consumption has definitely moved from a very unorganized way of packing to a sealed pouch kind of a category wherein the customer has a choice of various products where you can see and purchase the product. And brand has also become quite critical now, especially in the 20 to 25% retail sector. First of all, in the value-added segment, initially the demand was for fried cashews or fried almonds in that particular category when it started. Now the demand has gone from the fried nuts category to a dry roasted nuts category, and then from there to a cereal bar or a nut bar and that kind of a consumption. And looking at the industry in particular, we've seen premiumization across the board. So initially when sugar replacement was to be seen, date sugar was used or a date syrup was used as a sugar replacement. And now even in sweets, we are seeing a usage of anjeer and other dry fruits, or the more premium dry fruits in the category. So this is what we are seeing in the value-added segment.
So clearly that is the industry where the consumer preferences seem to be changing, and we are looking at a stronger demand, whether it's for healthy snacking or even for various other food options there. Gunjan, one concern that the industry clearly has had for some time has been the various taxes, and that makes it for slightly not competitive or expensive final product going forward. Is that a concern that you see? Is that what you're putting forth to the regulators too?
That's a major, major concern. India is one of the most heavily taxed countries when it comes to nuts and dried fruits. Just to give you an example, walnuts invite 100% tariff. So it's almost above a luxury. So we are at a very punitive taxation when it comes to nuts. And because of that, of course, the affordability of this very healthy product. Our Prime Minister talked about now after the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, he talked about a Swasth Bharat Abhiyan. So these are nature's pills, and we would really want, I would use your platform to request the government that this is healthy food stuff for the common man of India. India is a very vegetarian country, and walnut is among the major non-fish source of omega-3s. And for protein, it's a handful of pistachios is as much protein as an egg. So if we are able to make it more affordable, it's a very healthy alternative. We've been trying to make the honorable government understand that and get this healthy commodity in a better pricing. Just to give you a number, and I put that number out, we say India, the market has been really growing at 7%, 8% CAGR. I think it's going to grow even further. We are looking at a target of about a 15% CAGR, but still, walnuts, China, I just want to put it out just to give you a context. China and India, similar populations, but just because of more affordability, China today consumes 800,000 tons of walnuts a year. And India, because of where we are just able to consume about 70,000 tons because we are essentially more than doubling the price of the commodity that it actually is available internationally. So if we can actually have this thing solved, I think the market will grow even further. We are looking at a 9,000 crore market.
Okay.
We see that it can very quickly grow by leaps and bounds. And we would really seek the support of the industry and everybody to try and get this healthy product at a much more affordable price to all the Indian consumers.
Oh, absolutely. Rajat, what's your sense? What are the concerns that the industry is looking at right now? And especially when it comes to cashews, how would you look at the growth going forward?
So just to give you a snapshot, in 2010, we were looking at a global crop of around 25 lakh tons of raw cashew nut. And today, we are estimating this year to be 55 lakh tons. So the growth has been phenomenal in cashews. And out of this 55 lakh tons, around 20 lakh tons are imported to India. This oversupply situation has been compensated more or less by a growth in demand, and we are seeing cashew is still the king in dry fruits in India, right? So if you compare this to a kernel equivalent of almonds, almonds is still 2 lakh tons. But that growth of almonds has been from 40,000 tons in 2010 to 2 lakh tons in 2023. So the growth across the dry fruits category has been phenomenal, especially in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. The challenge is to actually provide these products both affordably as well as give a convenience to the customer, a tier 2, tier 3 customer, because why has the market grown from 40,000 tons to 2 lakh tons in almonds? It's because of 3 reasons. One is it has gone from a festive demand to a 365-day demand. We've been able to create a daily consumption of the product, right? The major challenge, however, is to create reposition nuts or premium nuts from an elite focus to a mass focus. Because the moment we are able to do so, we'll be able to contribute more and more towards the nutritional benefit of a common Indian citizen. And this is definitely possible through technology. I mean, from my own experience, I can talk about how we've been able to use technology to provide greater and greater value to the end customer, try to reduce all the other costs and try to pass it on to the end customer. And I think that is what we are seeing. The growth which we are seeing is because of the implementation of both technology as well as players like the organized players being able to consolidate both in backward integration as well as forward.
Totally, Rajat. I mean, as you mentioned about that relevance of 10 years ago and right now, yes, there's a lot of change on how dry fruits clearly have become a part of our daily consumption there. But on that note, it's time for a short break. Don't go anywhere. Our guests are with us. We will discuss with them the projections, outlook, and of course, the concerns that the industry faces.
CNBC TV 18, embarking on a quarter century of excellence.
Welcome back, and you're watching Commodity Champions, and we are talking about dry fruits right now, where the industry has seen growth by leaps and bounds. Ravindra, this one is to you. From where we are right now, what is the kind of opportunity that you see for this sector, let's say, in coming 2 or 5 years?
India's demand, the growth has been phenomenal, as mentioned by my other panelists. We are looking at a demand of about 8 to 10% as of now, but probably going forward, if the taxes are rationalized and the consumption pattern changes, because we today largely are a table snacking commodity, and when we do some value addition to it, we see that the growth coming to at about 15%. On a value terms, what we understand today, the value stands at about 56,000 crores on a wholesale basis for 1.3 million tons of commodity, different kinds of nuts and dry fruits, what we are consuming today. The problem is that we are not been in a position to market it well across India based on the health benefits. I think the only push what we got was during the unfortunate period of COVID, but now it has to be marketed for a healthy food, which probably will give us the required growth of about 15%. As I said, the headroom for growth is immense because we've got the youngest population in the world, and that youngest population still does not eat any kind of nuts and dry fruits. I mean, we still have to force our kids to eat healthy nuts. We just need to ensure that the young generation gets hooked on to this category, which is a champion commodity in all its respect. And once we are in a position to do value addition, once we are in a position to market it across India as a health product, once the taxes are rationalized, I am 100% sure that the growth rate will not be less than 15%, looking at our population of 1.4 billion and growing. The target segment today in India is the middle class, which probably is the largest in the world. And even if we consume, let's say, a handful of nuts, or probably the total 4 to 5 grams of nut if the entire industry consumes, then I don't think so that any nut and the dry fruit in the entire global production would remain available. So that is the depth of India market, and that is the beauty of our trade, that we have the healthiest product to sell it to our consumers. We are giving them health. We are giving them health at very rational cost. I mean, if you look at America as a country, they produce the largest quantity of almonds. They produce second largest quantity of walnuts. And India today is the only market beyond the US own domestic market. I mean, we are the single largest importers and consumers of almonds, barring aside USA. So India is an important market today.
Oh, absolutely. And as you said, if taxes are rationalized and if you can market it well, this perhaps is an industry which could look at much higher growth. Gunjan, what's your sense? What are the opportunities that you see for the sector? Where do you see more value addition that can be done? And which nuts or dried fruits you think have a scope of doing much better from here on?
So yeah, the industry where we see value addition is one of the major things. Right now, most of the nut consumption in India is still limited to the morning. Like at the time of breakfast, you'll have a few soaked almonds and walnuts and figs or other nuts. The biggest potential this industry has is in the snacking segment. More and more, as a snacking nut, it becomes an all-day nut, and in different forms, energy bars, cereal bars, more in muesli. It's getting to that direction, but we need to do a much higher consumption there. If we are able to create more consumption opportunities, I think that's the biggest segment of growth that this industry can take. Just again, a statistic that while most of the developed world, nuts and dried fruit as snacking are consumed maybe about 90% or 85%, and a little bit is in the like an ingredient, and very little as raw. Whereas in India, it's right now entirely the opposite. So that's the biggest scope. That's the potential for future that we see that this can happen towards growth in the industry. And as far as the other challenges are concerned, on that, marketing is the largest thing. The more we are able to talk on health plank and get everybody to understand that, I think there's no looking back. In terms of commodities, India is now getting very, very encouraged to try new stuff like cranberries, blueberries, hazelnuts, macadamia nuts. So all these new kind of dry fruits. In the 90s, Indian nuts and dried fruit, or even in 2000 early, the Indian nuts and dried fruit basket was limited to almonds, cashews, walnuts, raisins, pistachios a little, and that's it. But now if you go to any supermarket shelf or anywhere, even a smaller town, you'll find consumer interest across cranberries, blueberries, all these new kind of healthy nuts, filberts, pine nuts. So that's how the category has increased. I remember as a young boy, when I used to travel overseas, that was my first thing, that when I used to come back to India, and I used to feel as a proud Indian, when I used to see a supermarket shelf overseas, it used to be like 20 different things, mixes, all these new berries, blackcurrants. all these exotic nuts. And when you came to India, we were selling just 4. So that was one of the first thing we did as a company. We said we need to bring every nut and dried fruit, whether it's a prune, whether it's an apricot, whether it's a cranberry, blueberry, just get them into the Indian market. Why is the Indian consumer a second-rate citizen? They are not. They are not.
We
Indian
have,
consumers.
Gunjan, we've seen all of that actually come into the shelves in the Indian markets now. So, well, absolutely, as you're saying, a lot of effort already is done by you guys, and you've achieved what you perhaps started with. And as you said, the next leap is just around the corner. I have a last 1 minute, and this one is for you, Rajat. So what is your sense on what needs to be done now? Is it going to be marketing? Is it taxes? What would you ask government as a support system for the sector too?
So I think looking at the Indian industry in particular, previously it was mostly a regional, dry fruits was a regional consumption. So most of the sales used to happen either in the Delhi market or the Mumbai market. But I think one thing that government has done, and we have to salute the government for it, is rationalization of VAT post the GST regime. Which has allowed all India level players to be competitive in all dry fruits. Previously, except cashew nuts, all other dry fruits, only Delhi and a few other regions would be competitive in. And this has allowed, and this has actually fueled the growth of the overall dry fruits segment in South India and the rest of India as well. Because if you take an example of Anjeer, for example, from 5,600 tons in 2010 to 20,000 tons, the growth has been fueled by other regions. And if taxes are rationalized, if import duties are rationalized, we may see a humongous growth in this segment. And I think this is something that we can represent the government with the NDFC, and coming in now, all of us can represent to the government and try to rationalize this. Also, Food Safety Act and Legal Metrology Act, they can also be relooked at in terms of trying to creating a much more business-friendly environment for people who are trying to get into the organized sector.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm assuming that with the National Council that you guys have worked with now, perhaps we'll do that work collectively. I mean, as you guys have said, in last 10 years, there has been a lot of change and a lot is being assessed right now and worked upon as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Mehta, Rajat and Gunjan, for joining us today for this very exciting conversation on a sector that we don't normally talk about, but clearly is a large number right now. $9 billion of a market is what is anticipated by next year. So clearly a lot of work being done onto that one. But with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Commodity Champions. Thank you so much for watching.
CNBC TV 18, embarking on a quarter century of excellence.